A well-done question. She has the power to generate very creative answers within us. Or, when we cannot reach the answers, the question even takes us to lead us to a process of change. For example, when I wonder, what does a human being need to be happy? I may want to find the answers by placing all the dimensions of material happiness, which is no problem. I need material realities. I need the comfort where to sleep. I need food. But when I enter the spiritual dimensions of happiness, then that it has no end, because it is spiritually different from matter. Materially, I can be almost saturated with much joy. I find people who have a lot all the time, and I know how difficult it is for them to manage everything they have. Sometimes they spend a good part of life and time by managing what it has materially achieved. And it's not enjoying it, right? See? It is managing. I like to say that I have tried not having it, and today I experience it. Both are difficult. Not having is very difficult, and having is also very difficult. From the moment you have a house, which you have the responsibilities of that house, the demands of that house, you lose some of your freedom. Things. They are creating a context for us that is imprisonment. As free as we are, we always have a right, and sometimes a few moderate, others an exaggerated attachment to things. By the way, when white will die, when we know that it is close to dying, much ways to know who will be thing. A person who is free, for example, of material goods, when he approaches the end, he will be much more conflicted with what people will be, the son he left. Now, when there's a material attachment, the person is much more concerned with who will be things than how people will be. So, unlike material wealth, spiritual wealth, it does not occupy space. It sweeps spaces within us. The richer a person gets spiritually, the empty he feels. Not in the sense that he has no meaning to life, but the more space they create inside so that they can receive more. Unlike accumulators. It's so sad, isn't it? You can look and make your judgment. How can a person live in such an accumulated environment? Yeah, it's a disease. It is an imbalance. This is the highlight of an attachment to matter. But there are people who seek this happiness in matter. Extrapolates what is needed for use. Yes, happiness. It also includes material dimensions of life. But make no mistake. After having what is material, if there is no spiritual meaning for what you have, you become prison for us. You will live to manage what you built, not to enjoy. And it is very sad to live to manage. Sometimes we see people who are like dogs tied to the goods they have. Someone approaches and already fails. It's not like this. Live there to watch. The car cannot have a scratch. If he realizes that he has a scratch, he no longer sleeps at night. He already wants the other day and solve what his problem. It is an exaggerated attachment. Makes happiness depend on all that is material. But having, if he is not covered with spiritual realities, spiritual meanings, becomes just a burden. Then you arrive at a time you even need to ask, right? Who is from whom? Is it the car that is mine, or I am in the car? Yes, happiness includes material needs. It is good for us to have. Things do not make us richer. Things only make us heavier, because it is having without spirituality. Because I may well coat what life has given me through my work of spiritual meanings. My house, for example, is no longer a weight for me when it becomes the place of my true rest. My true rest, where I find my peace, my tranquility, where I redo my tiredness, and where I put the people I love. Everyone who frequents that house becomes part of spiritual happiness. It is so beautiful when you enter a house and you realize that respect for the other is in the small details. It's not just a home to be beautiful, no. It is a home to have spiritual meaning. That's it. They're the people who transit there love each other. And that becomes part of spiritual happiness. You are accompanied by people you have learned to love. The other is not seen as just an object to meet needs. No, The other is a being that is part of the joy of my house. We grow up too much as people when we can overcome the meaning of matter. No, we need to allow God to raise us, to grow us. Spiritual maturation, spiritual richness. Right. Everything you have already achieved, everything you can still achieve. For you to be a rich spiritually, effectively, and even then that little you have already achieved. It may not be much. It is so full of meanings that you feel rich. You have that feeling that it was worth it. You get generous, you are grateful for life, which is very bad when we do not learn gratitude. We can conquer so many things and we are still not satisfied. Why? The spiritual richness of being grateful is lacking. To understand what you have achieved as a result that always deserves to be celebrated. I wish you, in your struggles, you always have the right and the possibility of removing your excesses, so you can see before your eyes your fundamental truth without exaggeration. Just you, and from that, you meet the path of life. This is so interesting, huh? What do I like about the other? It is what is left of our encounter. This is what we tease when we are together. Friendship, it works like this. I like what we tease when we are together. And it's so easy to see, because when you are with a particular person, you tease you. Martin Buber said that you are another third person with your own existence. The meeting between two generates spiritually, not materially, of course, but very noticeable. For this person, we fall in love, or with this person, we have implication, dislike. This is what is left of our encounter. Now, suddenly, if a third person arrives, it already modifies. Naturally, we are modified when there is a third person among us because we are no longer just what we are when we are two. You, when you are with your son alone with him, generates a third person. You both, if the husband arrives, has already changed the result of this meeting. So, now the rule is interesting for us to understand the effective life. Why do I have so much difficulty with that person? It is our result. The meeting generates a human existential result. Why do I like to be with that person so much? Because of what she causes me when she meets me. There are people who can extract from us what the others can't. I am going through a very interesting experience that is to be biographed. The biographer, who is reporter Rodrigo Alvarez. In fact, I feel extremely honored to be biographed by a man of the greatness of Rodrigo. From a professional point of view, from the human point of view, an extremely skilled, sensitive human being. Rodrigo is currently correspondent from Reed Globo in Berlin, but I met him in Jerusalem during last year's Pentecost. And I remember that I went to give an interview for Rodrigo, and before the interview went to Gilberto of Maria's work. For God's sake, he talks to Rodrigo there that he needs to make a report. And we think you, Lord and Father Reginaldo Manzotti, should talk to him. Okay? We stayed there hitting a chat before the interview. And he was very curious about my way of being a priest in Brazil. Then our conversation continued. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. In this period of being biographer, I have to put my life on the table. I have to remember facts, people who passed me, who helped me to be who I am. And what is interesting is to realize to take these characters throughout my life and identify what each character caused in me. And it was very interesting to identify some people from the past, some who have died, even who are absolutely responsible for my way of being today. I was already forgotten that. It was only in the act of telling the story of having to roll this past so that Rodrigo understood my life and could write it, is that I was aware of the importance of these people and the configuration of my character. They ripped out of me feelings, positions, thoughts, postures that the others did not pull out. The result of the other in me, what we tease when we are together. You married like this. If you investigated your husband well, if it was not in a hurry, you married just because you fell in love with what was left between you and he when you were together. The human result you experienced was good when you were alone with him. And that's why love has to be renewed later. Because as a child arrives in the family, it changes the way you both were to the other. They will have to adapt their love. The same way when someone is torn. For example, a couple who loses an accident child, an illness. Statistics say that many couples, after facing the loss of a child, go through the separation process. Do you know why? Psychology explains it is very simple. Because the way of feeling and interpreting the absence of the child is different in men and is different in the woman. And sometimes there is no understanding. There is no understanding of this difference. So either the mother thinks the father is not calling the loss, or the opposite. It will all depend on the intensity with which this loss is felt in one's heart. Isn't that interesting? So when someone arrives, the relationship off too is modified. But also when someone is torn, the relationship is modified. This is what the other causes us. They are the mysteries of our feeling, my people. A human being is very mysterious. It is very enigmatic. Right, my dear Way. My dear producer. She's deep down, says on the internet. Shovel. If I was feeling deeply what I am saying, the human being is mysterious. This is why, guys, we have to break our language a lot. To make hasty judgments, to reach hasty conclusions, we are pure mystery. We need to get much more. It is the observation that we are giving us conditions, the ability to deal with the other, to be his father, to be a mother, to be a brother. And so, without this observation, we do not even know what the other provoked in us. And you know that when we have this wisdom, this slightly deeper thought, we start to understand even why we have implication of that person. Because it is natural, there is no way to avoid. Some people we are friendlier. I know some people want me not to feel it because I'm a priest, but I'm sorry. That's not how it works. I have no right to despise anyone. I don't have the right to treat anyone badly the same way you don't have. It's not because I'm a priest. It's not because I'm a boy educated by Donna Ana. Now, my feeling of wanting proximity to this or that. I'm sorry. This is human. I do not have the right to neglect my opportunity to be a priest in someone's life, but I have the right to elect those who participated in my intimacy. Thank you for joining us today at Path of Faith. Your engagement means the world to us. So please take a moment to leave your comments, like this video, share it with friends and family, and subscribe for more enriching content.